across the southeast, but many places becoming dry and clear for a time. But here comes that next weather system bringing rain to Northern Ireland, West Wales by dawn, and the winds strengthening here too. Mild again in the southwest, but elsewhere a pretty chilly night actually, certainly compared to recent nights, and pockets of frost likely in northeast Scotland in rural areas. But should be a bright enough start here, dry and fine. We'll see some sunny spells, just a few showers in western Scotland. But head further south, the cloud already thickening, turning wet across Dumfries and Galloway for the morning rush hour. Really soggy start for Northern Ireland and heavy bursts of rain covering much of Wales and western England too. Much of the East Midlands and East Anglia in the southeast will have a dry and generally dry, fine start, which will continue for most of the day. But the winds will be picking up in the west. Have Met Office warnings in place for South Wales, southwest Scotland, and for the afternoon southwest England, with another pulse of rain coming in here. We also have to keep an eye on Northern Ireland because, again, here the ground is very wet, so more rain could also cause some flooding issues here. Much of northern Scotland stays dry on the chilly side here, but elsewhere it is, again, pretty mild with temperatures into the teens. The rain continues through the evening. A lot of spray surface water on the roads for Tuesday evening's rush hour. Yellow warnings remain in place across the west too. That rain continues northwards, grinds to halts on Wednesday across the far north. Further showery rain in the south, but in between we should on Wednesday see something a little drier and a little brighter with some sunshine around. Goodbye.
Today's outlook: cool, calm and completely horizontal. Boxed Aircon sponsors the weather on GB News.
Well, President Trump threatening to sue the BBC has made pretty much every single national newspaper. We have got an exclusive interview with President Trump's lawyer for you, so watch this space on that. Rachel Reeves is going to raise your taxes and use it to scrap the two-child benefits cap. That could well mean that people from foreign countries who already can't afford to have kids make you pay so they can have even more of them. And you have been giving money to Pakistan to help them stop child rape over there. If only there was a solution.
You could win your entire Christmas on us this year, all magically delivered to you in time for the big day. There's cash, £30,000 in tax-free cash to make your new year go with a bang. There's also a further £10,000 to spend on all the gifts. We've also got Christmas lunch for you, with £1,000 in vouchers to spend at your favourite supermarket. And finally, a festive GB News goodie bag, so there's something for everyone under the tree. For another chance to win, text WIN to 63225. One entry costs £2.50 plus one standard network rate message. Or text BONUS to 63225. 5 entries cost £5 plus one standard network rate message. Go to gbnews.com/win. Entries start at £2.50. Call 0903 686 3232. Calls cost £2.50 plus your network access charge. Or post your name and number to GB17 PO Box 8690 Derby DE1 9TT. UK only. Entrance must be 18 or over. Lines close at 4 p.m. on the 28th of November. Please check the closing time if listening or watching on demand.
From the school run to the home run, watch a new show for all of Britain.
He can say whatever he wants.
A straight-talking show where all voices are heard.
And, you know, when are we going to stop talking about smashing the gangs and actually do it?
With the stories that matter from every part of our country.
There's a bit of a crash landing there for your Chancellor.
Bold, fearless and standing up for you. That's me, Martin Dormy, 3 p.m. till 6 p.m, weekdays, here only on GB News. The People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Britain was once the envy of the world. But look around. A nation that no longer knows what it is or where it's going. A country that's broken. How do we fix Britain? How do we bring it back? Friday night with Matt Goodwin at 8 p.m, only on GB News.
Decisions made in Washington aren't just shaping America, they're shaping Britain too. From migration to global security, from crime to health. Whatever happens in the White House today
will be felt in your town or city tomorrow.
That's why The Late Show is live from Washington, D.C.
Cutting through the politics to show you what it all means for Britain.
The Late Show live every night at midnight.
Only on GB News,
Britain's news channel.
No matter the state it's in, this is our nation. Join me, Jacob Rees-Mogg, for a genuine, honest discussion on where we have been, where we are going, and where we are with the people who set the direction. Tune in to State of the Nation every Monday to Thursday, 8 to 9 o'clock. Only on GB News.
At GB News, we love to hear from you, our loyal community. So drop us a line at gbnews.com/yoursay. There you can talk to each other and also to the presenters live on air. gbnews.com/yoursay, because GB News is your channel, Britain's news channel.
Welcome to Patrick Christys Tonight, late edition, breaking right now.
I'd like to make one thing very clear. BBC News is not institutionally biased. That's why it's the world's most trusted news provider.
Yeah, sorry, no, it is institutionally biased. So there you go. That was Chief Executive former of BBC News there, Deborah Turnus, not accepting reality. But President Trump and his lawyer disagree.
The president will hold accountable those that transmit false and fake information. He believes that there is an institutional bias that's been reflected in the reporting about him.
Well, the BBC's billion-dollar crisis has made the front of pretty much every single national newspaper. They've got until 10 p.m. this Friday to apologise, which, by the way, is during my show. So I think we should get a countdown clock made for that. And
Labour has no plans to increase taxes on working people.
That wasn't true, was it? Rachel Reeves has hinted that she's gearing up to hike your taxes so that people who already can't afford to have kids will have even more kids. And guess what? I bet most of those won't even be British. And
for the very first time, migrants arriving via small boat will be detained and returned to France in short order.
Whoa, the hokey cokey. Yes, the GB News exclusive has revealed that yet another loads in, one out migrant has, shock horror, come back to Britain. I mean, to be honest, at this point, if they come back a third time, do we just let them stay? I mean, it's borderline impressive of them at this point. And
we will remove people with no right to be here, and we will secure Britain's borders.
How do you feel about paying for foreign criminals and illegal migrants to, once we've deported them, set up businesses in Somalia and the Democratic Republic of Congo? We are doing that, by the way. And also, you, the taxpayer, has been sending money to Pakistan so that they can cut down on child sex abuse over there. Gosh, maybe we could be using some of that money to cut down on the amount of sex abuse committed by Pakistani nationals here in Britain. Joining us this evening is a man who knows a thing or two about a billion-dollar lawsuit. It's the former editor of The Sun, Kelvin Mackenzie. We've also got journalist and broadcaster Benjamin Butterworth, GB News contributor and comedian Leo Kurz. But let's get those headlines now with Aaron Armstrong.
Very good evening to you. 2 minutes past 11 in the GB newsroom. Our top stories. Donald Trump's threatened the BBC with $1 billion legal action over the editing of his speech in a Panorama documentary. His legal team's accusing the corporation of defaming the US president and has demanded a retraction, giving the broadcaster until Friday evening to respond. Earlier, BBC chairman Samir Shah apologised for what he called an error of judgment in the documentary. It's prompted the resignation of the BBC's Director General Tim Davie and its head of news Deborah Turnus.
I stepped down over the weekend because the buck stops with me. But I'd like to make one thing very clear. BBC News is not institutionally biased. That's why it's the world's most trusted news provider.
Then I didn't recognise.
And has the government's support, but Conservative leader Kemi Badenoch says it highlights long-standing issues at the corporation.
This isn't just about the latest doctoring of a documentary about Donald Trump. It's about the way the BBC has continually covered issues of sex and gender. A lot of women out there believe that the BBC is institutionally biased against them. A lot of Jewish people believe that the BBC is institutionally biased against them. And so those are the people that I'm speaking out for. It's not about just, the high-profile names. It is about everyday people who watch the BBC and know that what they're watching is not true.
Rachel Reeves has given the strongest hint yet she will announce tax rises in the budget. Speaking to the BBC, the Chancellor suggested she'll be unable to honour Labour's manifesto pledge not to increase income tax, because doing so would mean deep cuts in public spending. She's also understood to be planning to scrap the two-child benefit cap in full in a move that could cost more than £3 billion, saying children shouldn't be penalised for being part of a large family. Former heads of the army have accused the Prime Minister of allowing human rights law to undermine the effectiveness of Britain's armed forces. 9 four-star generals have signed an open letter in the Times to warn that soldiers' trust in the legal system has deteriorated to an extent that it presents a direct threat to national security. They blame so-called lawfare being used to fight political or ideological battles, saying decisions made in combat which were lawful at the time are later re-evaluated in the misplaced light of hindsight. The general's intervention coincides with Armistice Day on Tuesday, when the nation remembers its forces' sacrifices. Former French President Nicolas Sarkozy has been released from prison 3 weeks into a 5-year jail sentence. The 70-year-old is now under judicial supervision and is banned from leaving the country. An appeal trial is expected to take place in March. He was jailed last month after being convicted on charges of conspiracy. Sarkozy has consistently denied wrongdoing and has called the case politically motivated. Finally, an activist has taken on an unusual stunt to demand stronger climate action as the COP30 climate summit kicked off in Brazil. A campaigner from Greenpeace balanced on a 55-metre-long rope high above the streets of the Spanish capital, Madrid, in front of a banner reading "The Planet on a Tightrope." Some 50,000 people are expected to attend the 12-day summit in the city of Belém. However, the Trump administration will be a notable absentee, the White House confirming that it does not intend to send any high-level representatives to the summit. The organisation has said on the opening day it's urging the governments around the world to end the use of fossil fuels and stop deforestation before 2030. Those are your headlines. That's it for the moment. Now back to Patrick.
All right, welcome along to Tuesday's newspaper front pages. We start with the Daily Telegraph. They go for Trump to sue the BBC for $1 billion. By the way, there is a theme on the front of the national newspapers. The Eye, future of the BBC licence fee in jeopardy as Trump threatens $1 billion legal action. The Guardian, BBC board member with Tory link led the charge over claims of bias. Oh, absolutely. You know, blame the Tories for years of left-wing bias. The Mail, Trump tells the BBC, grovel or I'll sue you for $1 billion. The Sun, Beeb's billion-dollar bungle. The Metro, Trump's $1 billion battle with corrupt BBC as chiefs quit in doctored speech row. The Times, BBC is told to say sorry or Trump will sue them for $1 billion. Can I just say the Times and the Telegraph also carry 2 other stories, which is about Rachel Reeves apparently going to hike your taxes so that she can scrap, actually, the two-child benefit cap entirely. Some would argue so that people who can't afford to have children from countries that aren't Britain can come here and have as many as they flipping like at your expense. The Daily Express, you will pay the price for vicious OAP tax. The Express firing an early warning shot there at Rachel Reeves, so don't come after the pensioners again, otherwise we'll make your lives hell. And the Independent, BBC says sorry, but Trump threatens to sue for $1 billion. The Mirror, completely different story entirely. And this is quite a moving story, actually. It's about Prince William and Kate as well, and how open they are, in fact, entirely open, with their children about Princess Catherine's cancer struggles. So there you go. Those are your front pages. Just to launch us off about this $1 billion BBC thing, in the next show after mine, we've got an exclusive interview with President Trump's lawyers. That should be good. Ben Leo and Bev Turner will be bringing that to you. But it's nice to know, isn't it, that the outgoing CEO of News has both taken it well and also acknowledged the real issue here.
I'd like to make one thing very clear. BBC News is not institutionally biased. That's why it's the world's most trusted news provider.
How do you think she votes? I don't know. I don't know. But there are some examples of it being institutionally biased, not just politically, but also culturally as well. I can bring up an email here, which I've come into possession of, which appears to be from a LGBTQ+ So it's a senior journalist, LGBT and identity reporter. So they have an LGBT and identity journalist department at the BBC. And what you'll notice is at the bottom of that email there, the BBC logo is in the rainbow colours, and he describes himself as an LGBTQ plus ally, supporting LGBTQ plus inclusion. Fantastic. Which might go some way to explaining, and by the way, I'm not saying that reporter had anything to do with this, might go some way to explaining the next thing I'm going to show you, which is a report of the BBC where they appeared to edit out the fact that a convicted paedophile was actually also a drag queen and the member of an LGBT diversity organising pride group. So there you go. It's that kind of stuff that keeps happening at the Beeb, where they remove things or willfully ignore things. Anyway, Kelvin, I'll start with you on this. I mean, the Daily Mail's pretty good. Trump tells BBC, grovel or I'll sue you.
Do you know what? This actually cheers me up. I don't view it as a kind of serious thing. I look upon it as kind of Punch and Judy, that at the end of the day, the BBC are either going to grovel or they're going to pay. They can't pay because they haven't got any money, because it's our money. And if it then disappeared across the Atlantic, that would be a big problem. And that means that they're in a terrible, shocking position. They've got no chief executive. They've got no head of news. That chairman will be gone by the summer. I mean, he's a total dud, that guy, because actually he should have got control of this position a lot earlier. This all happened. They all knew in May, and they did nothing about it in May. And do you know why they did nothing? Because nobody had complained. Right. Yeah. It was only once the Telegraph
watched it.
Right. So nobody realised what happened. And actually, you talk to any documentary maker or any actual kind of panorama type editor, they'll all tell you the one thing you check, the one thing you do check, the bosses check downwards, is where did that piece of film come from, right? So that in a normal thing, even if it was the history of Sainsbury's and the CEO is saying something about this and something about that, and it's been put together, they'll want to know, does it alter, did it happen in that progress? Every single anybody in TV watching this show tonight knows that is the case. So there is no defence for it. And that, the lady who is leaving, right, she is I'm sorry to say, the trouble is that you become part of the system. And their system is, I'm afraid, anything that comes from the left, that's the way we've got to look at anything. And that is why, honestly, I know this is a shock to you, but that is why GBNews has done so well, because actually it doesn't pretend it's coming from one.
Yeah, I mean, the way the BBC report facts, they find facts that fit their agenda. You can see it in the reporting on trans stuff. You see it in the thing we're going to cover, like the way they edit an article to delete facts that are inconvenient for them. When they cover trans shooters, the Minneapolis trans shooter, they barely mention. You had to scroll down about 5 pages before there was even a mention of the fact, the very relevant fact, that the shooter was transgender. And in fact, the BBC even blamed, they had somebody on blaming the shooting on the far right. This was a transgender shooter who said he wanted to kill Donald Trump. This is the opposite of the far right. You know, this is the Green Party one. We see it with everything. When they had a Gaza documentary, they had a Hamas terrorist's son narrating it. I mean, this is not an impartial observer. Everything they did, Panorama as well, when they investigated the police station and found out that the policeman had some inconvenient opinions, but based in reality on the demographics he has to deal with. You know, he was slammed, he's fired. Why are they spending taxpayer money investigating people like that when they should be investigating themselves and why is BBC Verify not turning its gaze inwards?
It's being changed to BBC Falsify. Actually, they're employing another 120 people to do it.
It's on that. I mean, BBC Verify got done for just factually getting wrong a story about car insurance being racist when it wasn't. They used outdated, faulty data. But to that, I would also ask, there's a wider point there, because that goes back. People at home might not necessarily get this, but there's an editorial meeting that leads up to that. So even the decision to do a story about car insurance being racist, I would argue, is a left-wing story. We need to find something that's racist. Find me something that we can crowbar in here that is evidence of racism, Benjamin.
Look, racist car insurance wasn't in my research, so I don't know about how racist car insurance is at the moment. But what I would say is that on the Panorama programme, it was made by an outside independent company called October Films, who submitted it to Panorama. It wasn't made within the organisation. Clearly, they've failed to check, and I think what's alarming is that this came to light in May, and they didn't take action when no one was looking. So often in big organisations, that is the real mistake. But I don't accept that a handful of errors which you can put together for a monologue like this means that it is institutionally biased.
I mean, it's not a handful, though, is it? Because you've got various other ones, like that one, for example, about the airbrushing out of the paedophile story, that he was also a drag queen and, indeed, a member of a Pride organiser event. I mean, it seems to be loads of times where you end up with, you know, a woman accused of rape, and then it's just a big bloke. You know, this is all the time. They do stuff all the time. I mean, there was also accusations that their ping notification about breaking news was weighted towards positive immigration stories and not negative ones. I mean, it is a lot of stuff, man.
Look, I think there are a lot of people who hate the BBC precisely because it is so often impartial. They don't want to have such a powerful, independent broadcaster that goes around the world. Donald Trump hates the free press. You know, he tried to pull the funding from Harvard for not agreeing to his goals for what they should research. He's suing the Wall Street Journal. That isn't a free press that he believes in.
Go on, what do you?
Well, yeah, I mean, Donald Trump pulls funding from NPR and publicly funded media. The media shouldn't be publicly funded. There's such a... Even Ken Loach says, this is some people on the left and on the right can agree. If you've got state-funded media, then it's state-controlled. And the BBC is essentially Britain's Pravda. I mean, you can't trust it. It's supposed to be this sort of marquee brand. I think it could return to its glory years, but I mean, the licence fee has to go, and they have to get somebody like me in. You know what I mean? The Headliners is finished. I don't mind doing the job.
Well, I think it's absolutely true that the big question mark going forward now, and this will have magnified this spotlight on it, is how do we want to pay for the BBC? I have no objection to the BBC. Actually, I may be old-fashioned, I may be middle class. I like Strictly, I quite like Traitors, and I very much like the new David...
Peaky Blinders?
Peaky Blinders. I like the David Attenborough thing. Why don't they focus on being an entertainment-based business, right? And we get charged that much for that, and we can pay a little bit more if we want some news coverage as well. But why don't we just do that? And in which case, everybody's happy. They'll have more revenue than they have right now. There'll be less aggro because news, thanks to social media, news is now splintered. You can't satisfy anybody anymore. And on that basis, I think they should stop it and just supply entertainment.
Can I give you the perfect example of how left-wingers don't realise how completely and utterly biased they are? So there is someone on the BBC board who's Robbie Gibb, Theresa May's former communications chief. This is on the front of The Guardian. There are now calls for him to go, basically just singularly because he's a Tory and he happens to be on the BBC board. But can I say this? So he is accused of amplifying criticisms in key board meetings. Well, I'm glad somebody did amplify criticisms because it's about time that they heard it. But Ed Davey has done a series of social media posts saying that Trump and Farage can't politically interfere in the BBC, our BBC. And then simultaneously called for Robbie Gibb to be sacked on the basis of him being a Tory. That is political interference from the left, and he doesn't get it into his...
And how many times have they called for GBNews to be shut down?
Yeah, they're doing it now. Lisa Nandy's doing it now.
I know Robbie Gibb, and I had lunch with him not so long ago, and he talked about this issue, that he raises issues at the board meeting which are... they don't like it. They don't like it, and they try and shut him down on a regular basis. Anybody who knows Robbie Gibb, he is not he's not me. You don't get plenty of that, right? He is a decent, rather quiet guy, and he said he found it very tough to make any points which weren't considered by mainstream kind of left-of-centre points. But his entire reason he was put on the board was to raise the very issues which are raised often around tables like this.
That's why he's needed there.
Yeah.
But the only people that we know have a party political background are Tim Davey, who was a Conservative councillor in Hammersmith, and Sir Robbie Gibb, who you cite, who was Director of Communications to a Conservative government. So the idea that it's full of Labour-supporting apparatchiks is just not true.
12 others around that board, old man.
But I'm not aware that any of them were in a political party before they got the BBC job.
Right, well, we should get BBC Verify on that.
But this is an important point.
I'd like to get it right.
This is an important point, because if Tim Davie and Robbie Gibb go, that's the only sane men at the BBC, essentially, and everyone else is a raving lunatic lefty.
Well, OK, I mean, I imagine that they all 12 people that you just defamed there might deny that. There you go. But anyway, coming up in just a moment.
We've been really clear in our manifesto about the taxes that we won't increase. And we're not going to increase the taxes that working people pay, their income tax, their national insurance and their VAT.
Right, well, it looks like Labour is going to hike your taxes so that people who weren't even born here can continue to have children that they can't afford. That's next.
Mornings don't have to be tiresome, especially if you have the right company.
Wake up to news as it happens, opinion and debate, and of course, a little bit of entertainment too.
Because when the kettle's on, we're on.
That's Breakfast on GB News, a show worth waking up for.
Every morning from 6 a.m.
Only on the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
We'll spread the news, you spread the word.
Sir Jacob Rees-Mogg's State of the Nation, Monday to Thursday from 8 p.m.
But I saw in that incredible ancient ceremony how it and our traditions held the country together. It wasn't just the proclamation at St James's Palace, it was the wave of them that then spread around the country. It involved all of us, it reminded us who we were, and it galvanised support for the new king. And I thought, this is just incredible. And then I started to think about, actually, all of these things have been arrived at, and our amazing uncodified constitution, which is written down, but in about 400 different places, it's all held together by these rituals and these ceremonies and customs. And even our law is devised that way. And actually, the conclusion I came to is that these things are really important. I think we don't really recognise, we like them, but we don't really recognise how fundamental they are to our reliability, our dependability as a nation, and our ability to cope with change. They celebrate service and duty. They celebrate sacrifice. They are based around, I would say, the values of the nation. And most of them, in fact, I think all of them, are funded not by the public sector. It's not local authority grants doing this, it's local traders. In terms of the local traditions and customs, the madder the better, as far as they're concerned. And I think this points to another element, that the absurd and our sense of humour. It's the only thing we take really seriously in this country. So I think that is fine. But I think we do adapt these traditions. They do modernise.
GB News, the People's Channel.
You want to know what's really going on in the corridors of power? Labour don't know what to do with you half the time, and that makes you quite lethal in the chamber. Get behind the headlines with Chopper's political podcast. Join me, Christopher Hope, as I sit down with the great and the good of British politics. We'll see where this ruling takes us. These are the stories shaping our nation. Chopper's political podcast, available now on all platforms. Listen in and stay ahead.
OK, welcome back to Late Edition. Well, as you've seen, all of the front pages are really leading with this BBC story that President Trump appears to be about to sue them for $1 billion, unless, of course, they apologise big time by 10 p.m. on Friday, UK time, which is wonderfully going to coincide with me being live on air, so we'll get a countdown clock in. Just before we move on to another story about benefits and why you're all going to be paying for other people to have kids, I wanted to give you a quick interview now with Martin Plaut, who is the former Africa editor for BBC World Service News. Martin, thank you very much. Tremendous to have you on the show. My researchers told me earlier on that you'd actually fallen foul of something you'd attempted to try to do about Bob Geldof when you were at the BBC. Is this correct? What's gone on there?
Oh, absolutely. That is absolutely right. I was criticised by the BBC for doing a story in which we had information which was pretty strong and it was well verified. We even had the CIA document that we quoted from, and we tried to get Bob Geldof to comment on it. I tried 3 times, but he didn't come back to me. It was basically about funds that had gone during the 84-85 famine had gone to pay for weapons that were being used by a rebel group that was operating in the area. And he didn't come back to me. And then, because we used a little bit of him, you may remember his famous remark on television saying, "Give us your fucking money." And, you know, I used that quote, and then I said, you know, it was amazing. 30 years later, he wasn't prepared to respond. Now, I was criticized. I was, shall we say, you know, told I'd done something wrong. I still think it was right, but that's not the point. I completely and absolutely stand by his right to criticize the BBC and criticize me. And the fact that the BBC found against me tells you how seriously they took it.
OK, so how do you find the allegations now, then? Also, I think I have to apologise for some language there, so sorry. But how do you find the...
What he said...
Yeah, no, fair enough. I'm here for it. But how do you take the allegation that the BBC is essentially a hotbed of left-wing institutional bias?
Well, I think it's absolutely untrue. I mean, it is a liberal organisation, but left-wing, absolutely not. You know, I mean, on the specific allegations regarding to the Trump cuts, cut of the way the clip was put together, completely and utterly wrong. Nothing that can be said to defend it. That was utterly wrong. But you know, I mean, the attacks that were made in your previous interview, where people were saying, you know, they were talking about these are just crowbarring attacks on the BBC, and that was terrible. And the idea that state-funded is state-controlled, absolutely untrue. In 29 years working for the BBC, I never once had a phone call from the Foreign Office, who paid every penny of my money, or almost every penny. I never once had a phone call from them telling me what to do. I made my mistakes. I made the right things. I reported from coups. I reported from famine. That is what I did, and that was what I was paid to do.
Why is it, then, that you think that pretty much everyone who leaves the BBC goes on to turn out to be really left-wing and do a podcast about it?
There are a range of people. There are other people that you could point to. But listen, I'm not going to get into that. What I will tell you about is the problem that there is in, say, the Arabic service, and that which was highlighted by David Grossman and was in the memo is much more serious.
They put a bloke on 200 odd times after he'd called for Jews to be burnt like Hitler did.
Absolutely, and that was completely and utterly wrong. And I mean, just to give you one example, in the famous memo that was in the Daily Telegraph, it says, on the story selection, the BBC's main news website posted 19 separate stories about the hostages taken by Hamas on the day of its terror attacks. The BBC Arabic, there were none. And that I can completely believe. But let me explain how this has happened. The real problem was that when I joined the BBC, which was in 1980s, you had translators who worked in the language services, and they were provided with information centrally, which they translated. That was fine. Then it was said this was patronizing. So they became considered journalists. Many of them were excellent journalists, and I have no criticism of some of them. But the problem was that we then had control by editors who were, shall we say, Brits, and they controlled the output. Gradually that fell away, and we promoted the, shall we say, Arabic service or other services to be the editors. Now, by this time, you had a situation where people were very much influenced by their own community, the people they were broadcasting to, and there was no control by people who were outside that. And that is where the problem arose.
OK. All right. Martin, thank you. Sorry, we'll have to cut it short there, but thank you very much for your time this evening. I do appreciate it. I would love to talk to you again soon. Martin Plaut there, former Africa editor of the BBC World Service. Right, OK. Let's go to the Daily Telegraph, because their top story, as in the story on the top of their front page, is about Rachel Reeves listing 2-child benefit cap so people who can't afford to have kids can keep having more kids. Kelvin Mackenzie, what do you make of that?
Well, what Reeves is doing is saying we're putting up taxes. Oh, by the way, we've decided not to be skint for the skin, and we're going to take 2 or 3 billion from you and hand it to them. Now, she has 2 issues. One is that the left of the Labour Party now run policy, if she wants to remain in a job, which I somehow doubt, but if she wants to remain in a job, she's got to keep on accommodating the left, as has Starmer, and the left demand that this cap is got rid of. But of course, the other aspect, of course, is that this is also Nigel Farage's policy.
No, well, the point of difference here is that Nigel Farage is saying that he would do it for British nationals,
right?
Whereas it appears that Labour is willing
well,
to do
Labour are never going to have a policy. They are not. They are in favour of, basically, they've proved to be in favour of open borders. I wish that they had put that in their manifesto. That might have changed the result. No, what's happening here? We're being sent another £3 billion bill, and at the same time we're told we're skimmed. I find it incredible.
There is the thing. So, Leo, there will be people out there, rightly or wrongly, who have decided that they've got a comfortable standard of living, and maybe they've had one child or not at all, but they don't want to have another one because they felt as though that might impact on their personal finances. They've been more career-focused. But there'll be lots of women out there who've done that, who've not had kids to focus on their career. And now it turns out that Labour wants them to just pay for other people's kids instead.
Yeah, and this isn't really going to help those people. I mean, if you're middle class, then child benefit isn't going to it's going to be a drop in the ocean in London, for example. But it is going to help the people who come over here and have huge families. So it's going to greatly accelerate the demographic change in Britain. Why a British government would want to do that? We need to ask questions. I mean, traditionally Labour, they said they wanted to rub the right's nose in diversity, and pretty clear that they wanted gerrymander the electorate, so it's more left-wing. Under Jeremy Corbyn, 85% of British Muslims voted Labour. But that's not the case anymore. They've got the numbers to have their own candidate. So why Labour are still helping people that aren't going to vote for them anyway, I do not understand. But I think this is part of a policy to rack up debts that are so insane that it'll just absolutely hamstring a reform government that comes afterwards.
Benjamin?
I mean, that's just conspiratorial nonsense.
So you mean it's going to come true in about 6 months?
The birth rate in this country is about 1.4, right? Which is one of the lowest in the world. It's not sustainable for our population, our demographics. We need people to have more kids, but it's very expensive. So there is a completely rational economic argument for our country in the medium term to get people to have more kids. But I also think it's a massive moral
people
failing.
Are having kids that aren't economically contributing to the UK.
Well, I think it's deeply problematic to suggest that someone who has relatively poor parents, that those kids will not go on to be successful.
I'm talking about demographic groups that are measurably less.
I was born on a council estate to two people in prison, right, who would have lived off benefits, and they were both drug dealers and they were both violent, and I've gone on to be an additional rate taxpayer as an adult. So, it's demonstrably not true.
It was a good idea for...
The fact is,
actually,
I think it is
ask the viewers to vote on whether they...
I think it is a moral failing that in a country that does have as much wealth as Britain, that we have people growing up where their parents can barely afford to feed or clothe them, which is the reality for some people. And I think that it is a responsibility that no kid, regardless of who their parents are or what they've done, should face a situation like that.
As somebody who was also raised in a council flat in Camberwell, alongside my two brothers and my loving parents, there was no benefits for us there, and look how I worked out. Yes, thank you. Next, please.
Okay. All right. Well, there we go. So still to come, we've got a bit of this.
We will remove people with no right to be here, and we will secure Britain's borders.
Yes, how do you feel about paying for illegal migrants and foreign criminals to set up their own businesses in Somalia and the Undemocratic Republic of Congo? Well, it doesn't matter how you feel about it, because you're doing it. That's next.
Evening. More wet and windy weather to come tomorrow, especially in western parts where we have Met Office yellow warnings in place for the rainfall. Mild for many, although it is turning a bit colder tonight. The wet and windy weather tomorrow coming from this area of low pressure. This one's been bringing plenty of rain through the day today. Still some heavy downpours across northeast England, southeast Scotland this evening, but they're heading away out into the North Sea. A few showers across the southeast, but many places becoming dry and clear for a time, but here comes that next weather system bringing rain to Northern Ireland, West Wales by dawn, and the winds strengthening here too. Mild again in the southwest, but elsewhere a pretty chilly night actually, certainly compared to recent nights, and pockets of frost likely in northeast Scotland in rural areas. But should be a bright enough start here, dry and fine. We'll see some sunny spells, just a few showers in western Scotland, but head further south, the cloud already thickening, turning wet across Dumfries and Galloway for the morning rush hour. Really soggy start for Northern Ireland and heavy bursts of rain covering much of Wales and western England too. Much of the East Midlands and East Anglia in the southeast will have a dry and generally dry, fine starts, which will continue for most of the day. But the winds will be picking up in the west. Have Met Office warnings in place for South Wales, southwest Scotland, and for the afternoon southwest England, with another pulse of rain coming in here. We also have to keep an eye on Northern Ireland because, again, here the ground is very wet, so more rain could also cause some flooding issues here. Much of northern Scotland stays dry on the chilly side here, but elsewhere it is, again, pretty mild with temperatures into the teens. The rain continues through the evening. A lot of spray surface water on the roads for Tuesday evening's rush hour. Yellow warnings remain in place across the west too. That rain continues northwards, grinds to halts on Wednesday across the far north. Further showery rain in the south, but in between we should on Wednesday see something a little drier and a little brighter with some sunshine around. Goodbye.
Hi, I'm Michelle Dewberry, and my show is your opportunity to cut through all the noise and dive in headfirst to some robust debates. Ideas clash.
Situation, isn't it?
No,
because the failure is
you're deliberately avoiding my point. Nothing's held back.
And if you think this is the end of it, wait for more.
And we do not shy away from the difficult stuff. Sometimes I want to shake people and say, if only you understood. So join me on Jubes and Co weeknights at 6 p.m. only on GB News, Britain's news channel.
Westminster's full of talk, but out here, it's the real world. Am I allowed to talk then? No, that's it. This is where it matters, real people and real lives. That's what politics is all about.
The fact that Trump made a good start, no.
Straight answers, no spin, and just a couple of pints.
How many fingers
have I got up? About 10. So join me for Lee Anderson's Real World every Friday at 7 p.m. only on GB News. The People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Welcome back to Patrick Christys Tonight, late edition. Now, before we tell you about a huge exclusive that's coming up in the next show, how would you feel about paying for deported illegal migrants and foreign criminals to set up businesses overseas after having been deported? No, I'm not part of some kind of weird left-wing shopping channel. This is a real thing. A new Home Office-backed Dragon's Den-style business scheme for deported foreign sex offenders has today been slammed by the British taxpayer. Well, not surprised. Last week, the Home Office published on its procurement page an appeal for NGOs and charities to apply for the scheme to help fund deportees to set up businesses, provide accommodation and even have therapy. It's going to go to places like Morocco, Sri Lanka, Algeria and the Democratic Republic of Congo and obviously Somalia. So there we go. Leo, your views on this?
I mean, this is terrible. Sex offenders. We're helping sex offenders set up businesses. They're all going to open sweet shops. This is going to be. They're going to be Hadoush Gerber Selassie Kabatu from Epping. He's going to be. He might actually stay over there for once if he's got a sweet shop and he can lure kids in. I think this is ridiculous. Every day I wake up and I'm like, oh, I wonder what ridiculous way the government has thought to waste money we don't have today. And today it's this. Today they're doing Dragon's Den in Somalia to help, with millions of our pounds, because apparently we're so rich. Why does the government somehow think that we're Norway or Qatar? We're sitting on trillions of oil money. We're not.
Well, technically, we are sitting on it. We're just not drilling for it.
Yeah. Britain is broke. Britain is broke. Stop spending money we don't have. And then Rachel Reeves is like, oh, I'm going to have to put up your taxes. No, stop spending money on Somalians. Like, stop giving my money. I don't. People are like, oh, but don't you want to help them? No, I don't. I'd rather have like £5 than like help one of them set up a business.
Call me old-fashioned, but I'm not sure we should be helping Somali sex offenders start a business, Kelvin.
Do you know what? I think my main point of my fellow panellists here is that every single day, almost every hour now, we learn that money that we have been told repeatedly by our Chancellor we haven't got is going somewhere outside the country to do something which is either ridiculous or offensive. And my issue for the nation is, are we ever going to say, we're not doing this anymore, we are going to vote for a government that is going to stop this. Does such a government exist? We certainly didn't have it under the Conservatives.
Yeah.
And we, as far as I can see, we haven't got it under this lot. So who is next?
Yeah, well indeed. And also, I'll tell you who's next. It's the Pakistanis. Because Britain has been blasted
What's happening there?
for sending £19 million to Pakistan to help tackle illegal migration, but also child sexual exploitation in Pakistan.
Is there much?
Oh, my God.
What?
Is there much? I don't even know. Well, who knows? What person in the UK currently knows whether there is plenty...
Well, we have a quite good indication, Kelvin,
Yeah,
given,
we have it
given
over
what
here.
happens when some
Over here.
Pakistanis
I thought they'd all come over here.
Well, no,
I didn't realise there were some still left behind.
I think it's, thank God the government is tackling the problem of Pakistanis being victims of sexual exploitation, because I've heard about these horrific stories about British girls, raping gangs of Pakistani men. And thank God those men are getting helped out. Now, this is insane. It's beyond farcical. It's like you can, in some sort of David Lynch fantasy, you can twist the situation to make it this disgusting, this much of a spit in the face to the British people. It's ridiculous. And Pakistan is a nuclear-powered state. It's got nuclear weapons. Why don't they sell one of their nukes if they want to set up, crisis camps for bearded men? It's an absolute nonsense.
Look, I think it's absolutely right that we put money into schemes in international development. First of all, we've halved the amount we spend, so the taxpayer is spending a lot less than they used to. But there is a global race of influence that China is waging, in which they are giving millions of pounds for all sorts of development projects in parts of Asia and Africa in particular, and they are getting more influence and sway and economic power. Britain is absolutely right to fund valid, charitable or economic development projects in these countries.
But China,
it's in our self-interest.
China is building power plants and things like that. I mean, things that are going to generate wealth, things that are going to return on investment. There's not going to be any return on investment from this.
It spends huge amounts on things like schools and roads and environmental projects, things that curry favour. And then when you have votes at the UN, when you have deals, China wins.
In Pakistan.
We should put more money into international development. I think this is completely right.
OK, can I just say that, as far as I can see, our country has got poorer over the years, and that the money that we used to be able to splash around is simply not there anymore. And I think the other thing is the politics of it all. I think ordinary people don't want to see money go anywhere where you can't even get your roads done. You can't seem to hire enough police officers to stop crime.
Yeah.
There are a series of things in our country which aren't happening, and yet even if I do accept that some of these numbers are quite low, right, in compared to what would have happened, say, 5 years ago. Yeah, but actually, so is our position.
Yeah,
we are a poorer country, and we should cut our cloth.
But you can't do the kind of budgets back to back that Rachel Reeves is either has done or is going to, and then still send 19 million quid off to rural Pakistan to desperately try to stop them raping kids. Like you can't. Now in fact we are going to be playing you an exclusive clip. Yes, because the big story on all of the front pages is President Trump going to war with the BBC, a $1 billion lawsuit, the Bee's $1 billion bungle. Well, Leo has been speaking to President Trump's actual lawyer.
What's your message to them? What's the president's message to the BBC right at this moment?
I think the message is fairly transparent in that the president will hold accountable those that transmit false and fake information. He believes that there is an institutional bias that's been reflected in the reporting about him, that there has been a lack of impartiality with respect to the reporting that has been engaged in. I think that there's been an intentional ignorance of evidence of bias within the BBC that needs to be remedied through governance arrangements that are fair and appropriate. And I think that those are the messages that we're trying to convey to them at this point in time.
Let's go stateside to Bev Turner, who's going to be hosting the Late Show Live for us this evening. Bev, well, I imagine you're going to be going quite big on that.
That's right, Patrick. It's the biggest story in the world right now. It's on all the front pages over there, and everything is happening here in this town and, frankly, in this studio, because we have so many of the key protagonists from this story that we're going to be talking to tonight. We're going to be talking to that lawyer, and we've also got two of the critical Daily Telegraph journalists, particularly Rob Crilly, who ran this story, and Connor Stringer. They're going to be in the studio with me this evening to get their reaction as the people who broke this story on Monday. Did they envisage a week later it would have seen the demise of the DG and of Deborah Turner as head of news, and massive questions being asked, and the president threatening to sue them for £1 billion if they don't retract, apologise? And the bit that I found interesting, Patrick, is it says something in the letter about, you know, to the same extent or with the same profile as the original defamation situation, as they would see it. And they're saying, you know, this wasn't just about being on Panorama. This is Trump's lawyers. It was everywhere because of social media. It got clipped up, and therefore the damage to the president was so much more than just a BBC documentary, and there's got a very powerful case for that. So, as you say, Ben's been talking to the lawyer, and we're going to show you that interview at the top of the show. It's all really interesting here.
Fantastic. Good stuff. Well, it's Bev Turner there. We're going to be hearing more from Bev in just a couple of minutes' time. That is The Late Show Live, and, you know, again, right at the centre of the story here, but coming up in just a second.
And we said refugees are welcome here.
Oh, not in her own patch, though, because the deputy co-leader of the Green Party has just refused, well, wants to refuse, to have illegal migrants in her own constituency. Mwah! You couldn't make it up.
I forecast a perfect holiday in the sun.
Weather looking good then?
For sure, and no worries about our travel insurance.
All Clear Travel Insurance sponsors GBNews Travel Destinations Forecast.
Hello there. We've got some heavy rain moving back into parts of Spain and Portugal the next few days. Some showers towards Turkey as well. But in between some sunny spells, the risk of some rain moving into Madeira come Tuesday, and that rain finally approaching western parts of Portugal later on in the day. But elsewhere across the Mediterranean, generally dry with some sunny spells, though showers moving from Greece into Turkey through the day. Some of these could be heavy at times, and the outlook is for it to be largely dry with sunny spells, temperatures near average.
All Clear Travel Insurance sponsors GBNews Travel Destinations Forecast.
Mornings don't have to be tiresome, especially if you have the right company.
Wake up to news as it happens, opinion and debate, and of course, a little bit of entertainment too.
Because when the kettle's on, we're on.
That's Breakfast on GB News, a show worth waking up for.
Every morning from 6 a.m.
Only on the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
We'll spread the news, you spread the word.
Hi, I'm Michelle Dewberry, and my show is your opportunity to cut through all the noise and dive in headfirst to some robust debates. Ideas clash.
Situation, isn't it?
No,
because the failure is
you're deliberately avoiding my point. Nothing's held back.
And if you think this is the end of it, wait for more.
And we do not shy away from the difficult stuff. Sometimes I want to shake people and say, if only you understood. So join me on Jubes and Kerr weeknights at 6 p.m. only on GB News, Britain's news channel.
From the school run to the home run, watch a new show for all of Britain.
So he can say whatever he wants.
A straight talking show where all voices are heard.
And, you know, when are we going to stop talking about smashing the gangs and actually do it?
With the stories that matter from every part of our country.
There's a bit of a crash landing there for your Chancellor.
Bold, fearless and standing up for you. That's me, Martin Plaut, 3 p.m. till 6 p.m. weekdays here only on GB News. The People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Decisions made in Washington aren't just shaping America, they're shaping Britain too. From migration to global security, from crime to health. Whatever happens in the White House today
will be felt in your town or city tomorrow.
That's why The Late Show is live from Washington, D.C.
Cutting through the politics to show you what it all means for Britain.
The Late Show live every night at midnight.
Only on GB News,
Britain's news channel.
5 hosts, 5 opinions, 5 fearless debates,
5 unfiltered takes on the day's news.
5 reasons not to be anywhere else on Saturday night.
This is the Saturday 5.
You got me good there.
Britain's biggest Saturday night TV show. It's not a bad brand.
Yeah.
Uncensored.
Very, very racy tonight. On the unpredictable.
What does she say? Can you translate it for us?
And always entertaining.
And how can a country go from being led by William Wallace Saturday nights from 6 p.m. only on GB News, the People's Channel.
Britain's news channel.
You're going to want to stay tuned, trust me.
Britain was once the envy of the world. But look around. A nation that no longer knows what it is or where it's going. A country that's broken. How do we fix Britain? How do we bring it back? Friday night with Matt Goodwin at 8 p.m.
Only on GB News.
Welcome back to Late Edition. Well, get this. The Deputy Green Party leader, Rachel Millward, she's pro-open borders, or at least she was.
There will be a day when we sit our grandchildren on our knees and we tell them, first they came for the immigrants. So we hung out flags from all the nations and we said, refugees are welcome here.
Oh, rock on, sister. But it turns out they're not welcome in her constituency. Yes, that's right. The Home Office is planning to house 600 asylum seekers at Crowborough Army Camp, her district of East Sussex. She wrote to the Minister for Migration and Citizenship, Mike Tapp, to strongly object to the plans. But why, Rachel, why? Because the dire mismanagement of the situation is already causing major problems, and because we simply do not have information to reassure us that the well-being and safety of both asylum seekers and local communities will be properly safeguarded. Oh, jog on. You don't want 600 undocumented men in your local area. Admit it. Kelvin.
Well, actually, Crowborough's a very nice part of the world, actually.
Well, it won't be for long if there's 600 Afghan blokes turn.
Well, let's hope it remains the green and pleasant land it is currently. But this is the trouble. The thing about the Green Party is, with that guy who's now running it, who runs a private, secret breast enlargement clinic.
He would deny that. He says it was set up by your newspaper, actually.
I find out. Do you know what that is? Shocking allegation. He wasn't set up. He regrets doing it. That's different from being set up. We have set up a few in our time, but the breast enlarger was not one of them. Yeah. And with him running that, and with her going flip-flop on open borders and whether she wants any 600 men in her backyard, it goes to show they're going to do fantastic, by the way. After May the 26th, the Greens will be at 20 or 22, and Labour will be down at 12 or 10.
We've already had cases of a Green MP not wanting, I think it was a wind farm in his constituency, and now we've got this lady who doesn't want the 600 foreign men in her local army barracks.
It all seems like a nice idea to welcome migrants in until it happens in your own backyard. Then all of a sudden it gets a bit real, and people don't want it anymore. And you know, we're seeing people. It's happening in Scotland as well. There's an army barracks near, I think it's near Inverness, that people are complaining. But I mean, in these places where they don't have many migrants, there tends to be Green Party politicians, Lib Dem politicians, and it's like, look at the policies. This is what they want. So think about what you're voting for. To be honest, I'd probably vote for a politician who could make breasts bigger. That's the only decent thing I've heard a politician doing.
Well,
it's certainly a plus for the Greens.
The other downside is because the other leader, co-leader, deputy leader of the Green Party is this guy.
Raise the voice of Palestine! Allahu Akbar! Allahu Akbar!
So he's saying Allah Akbar there. That's actually Arabic for please recycle responsibly. So that is why he's in the Green Party.
Look, I don't know what to say, but look, I wouldn't vote for the Green Party. But they obviously have a...
Why wouldn't you vote for them?
Well, because my politics, I would say, are moderate, though most GB News viewers write to me to call me a communist sometimes. But look...
I have to apologise for that.
You know, yeah, exactly. I still got the gig. But, you know, the Green Party has a fundamental problem, which is that most of its voters that it's won over are Conservative voters. They're not hard lefties. Two of their MPs were taken from Tories. They care about the environment and the forests and the rivers. That's what people vote Green for. Yeah. And yet you've got this ideological hardline that's taken over the party. It was always left-wing, but now it's quite a different beast. And yeah, they're going to get loads of retweets. But Jeremy Corbyn got loads of retweets and led Labour to its worst ever defeat. And I think that's the route for the Green Party.
Interesting. Well, we'll see, won't we? I mean, you know, strange things have happened, the cults of personality and all of that kind of stuff, but...
I don't think Zach Polanski... he's no New York mayor.
They're doing a massive PR number on him. Sky News had him on their breakfast show, and Trevor Phillips had him on, and then both Sky News' breakfast show and Trevor Phillips then did separate pieces about how enraptured they are with Zach Polanski, and isn't he so refreshing? Yeah. And as you said, The Last Leg had him on, where we did a little dance. Oh my gosh, so refreshing. There is a big concerted PR campaign,
and he's going to do. They are going to do very well, and we are. The only great news about this is we're going to watch the destruction of the Labour Party, which will be even bigger than the Tory party.
Tomorrow night, in Keir Starmer's constituency, Bob Villan has got a concert.
Oh, my God.
So we're going to be covering that tomorrow. Keir Starmer can't even keep Bob Villan out of his own seat. Anyway, I'll give you a final roundup of tomorrow's front pages. The Eye, future of the BBC licence fee in jeopardy as Trump threatens $1 billion legal action. Just remember that we've got the story on this. Bev Turner and Ben Leo in America are going to be talking about an exclusive interview with President Trump's lawyer. The Guardian, BBC board member with Tory link, led the charge. Yeah, whatever. The Mail. Trump tells BBC, grovel or I'll sue you for $1 billion. The Sun. Beeb's $1 billion bungle. The Metro. Trump's $1 billion battle with corrupt BBC as chiefs quit in doctored speech trial. Daily Express. You will pay the price for vicious OAP tax. A warning to Rachel Reeves to not tax pensioners more. The Independent. BBC says sorry, but Trump threatens to sue for $1 billion. The Mirror. Prince William on Kate's cancer battle. We told the kids everything, the good and the bad. Quite a moving story, that, of course, about the level of openness they've got with their children about Kate's cancer battle. The Telegraph, Trump to sue for $1 billion. And The Times, BBC is told to say sorry or Trump will sue for $1 billion. In case you couldn't see, there is a theme on the papers. Bev Turner's got the latest in Washington.
Thank you, Patrick. That's right. As you just said there, we're going to show you at the top of the show the interview with Trump's lawyer. We've also got Jason Miller in the studio tonight, key advisor to the White House. We're going to be looking at trans athletes being kicked out of the Olympics, and I've spoken to the American equivalent of Ofcom about free speech in the UK. See you in a minute.
We could be delivering the perfect Christmas to you this year. There's £30,000 in tax-free cash to make 2026 the best year yet. A further £10,000 cash to spend on gifts for all the family. There's £1,000 to spend in your favourite supermarket. And a festively themed GB News goodie bag. And we'll get it all to you in time for the big day. For another chance to win, text WIN to 63225. One entry costs £2.50 plus one standard network rate message. Or text bonus to 63225. 5 entries cost £5 plus one standard network rate message. Go to gbnews.com/win. Entries start at £2.50. Call 0903 686 3232. Calls cost £2.50 plus your network access charge. Or post your name and number to GB17 PO Box 8690 Derby DE1 9TT. UK only. Entrance must be 18 or over. Lines close at 4 p.m. on the 28th of November. Please check the closing time if listening or watching on demand. Good luck.
You want to know what's really going on in the corridors of power? Labour don't know what to do with you half the time, and that makes you quite lethal in the chamber. Get behind the headlines with Chopper's Political Podcast. Join me, Christopher Hope, as I sit down with the great and the good of British politics. We'll see where this ruling takes us. These are the stories shaping our nation. Chopper's Political Podcast, available now on all platforms. Listen in and stay ahead.
From the school run to the home run, watch a new show for all of Britain.
So he can say whatever he wants.
A straight talking show where all voices are heard.
And, you know, when are we going to stop talking about smashing the gangs and actually do it?
With the stories that matter from every part of our country.
There's a bit of a crash landing there for your Chancellor.
Bold, fearless and standing up for you. That's me, Martin Plaut, 3 p.m. till 6 p.m. weekdays here only on GB News. The People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Westminster, the ultimate clique.
And you're fighting like rats in a sack.
But here on the Camilla Tominey Show, we ask the questions the establishment media is too scared to ask.
OK, let me ask you a straight question, because I know you're a straight-talking politician.
Whether it's net zero, illegal immigration or law and order, nothing is off limits.
You had the power then.
Yeah, as I
and
say,
now you've lost it.
That's the Camilla Tominey Show, a politics show that's fearless.
But no, let me finish my question if you don't mind, because it is my show.
Sundays at 9:30, only on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Join me, Nana Akwe, for an informative, interactive news programme with a difference. It's fun.
No, he didn't say that, Dave.
I'm so surprised.
I think there's an element of truth to that.
Join me from 3 p.m. every weekend, only on GB News, Britain's news channel.
This is Jubes & Co with you.
Hello everyone, Patrick Christys here.
GB News, Britain's news channel.
Access the stories that matter to you. Take the GB News family with you on any device. And as long as you have an internet connection, tune in to GB News anywhere on the planet or beyond. GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Hi, I'm Michelle Dewberry, and my show is your opportunity to cut through all the noise and dive in headfirst to some robust debates. Ideas clash.
Situation,
No,
Because the failure is...
You're
the failure is...
deliberately avoiding my point. Nothing's held back.
And if you think this is the end of it, wait for more.
And we do not shy away from the difficult stuff. Sometimes I want to shake people and say, if only you understood. So join me on Jubes & Co weeknights at 6 p.m, only on GB News, Britain's news channel.
From the school run to the home run, watch a new show for all of Britain.
He can say whatever he wants.
A straight talking show